The worst mistake Adrian Cole ever made saved his life. One rainy night, one wrong woman, one conversation that wasn't supposed to happen, and suddenly everything he thought he knew about survival, about love, about being enough, shattered and rebuilt itself in ways he never saw coming. This is the story of a single father who walked into the wrong booth and found exactly what he didn't know he needed. If you're watching from anywhere in the world, hit that like button and drop your city in the comments. I want to see how far this story travels. The rain came down in sheets that Thursday night, turning the downtown streets into rivers of neon and headlights. Adrian Cole stood under the awning of Murphy's bar, watching the water cascade off the edge like a curtain separating him from the rest of the world. His phone buzzed for the third time in 5 minutes. His sister Emma checking in, making sure he actually showed up. He should have stayed home. His shirt was damp at the shoulders, his hair sticking to his forehead in wet clumps. He'd stopped caring about somewhere between the parking garage and the front door. Inside, the bar hummed with the low buzz of conversation, the clink of glasses, the kind of ambient noise that usually felt comforting but tonight just felt hollow. Adrian pulled the door open and stepped inside. The warmth hit him first, then the smell. Whiskey, wood polish, something frying in the kitchen. He scanned the room, looking for the woman Emma had described. Blonde, she'd said, wearing a blue scarf, sitting near the back. He spotted someone matching that description in a booth along the far wall. Her back was to him, blonde hair falling past her shoulders, a dark coat draped over the seat. He didn't want to do this. Didn't want to sit across from a stranger and pretend he was functional, pretend he wasn't still bleeding from the breakup 2 months ago that had left him sleeping on Emma's couch for 3 weeks while his 6-year-old daughter Lily asked why Daddy wasn't smiling anymore. But Emma had begged, and he owed her. So he crossed the room, weaving between tables, his heart doing that thing it did lately where it beat too fast for no reason. He reached the booth. Sarah? The woman turned. It wasn't Sarah. This woman had sharp green eyes, the kind that caught light and held it. Her blonde hair was pulled back, sleek and intentional, not the casual waves Emma had described. She wore a black blazer over a white silk blouse, expensive in a way that didn't scream but whispered. Her expression shifted from surprise to something unreadable in less than a second. Adrian froze. I'm sorry, I thought you were someone else. She tilted her head slightly, studying him. Clearly, he should have walked away. Should have mumbled another apology and found the actual Sarah somewhere else in this bar. But something in the way she looked at him, not annoyed, not dismissive, just curious, made him hesitate. Bad night? She asked. You could say that. Blind date? He blinked. How did you have that look? She gestured to the empty seat across from her. Sit. I really shouldn't sit. And it wasn't a command. It wasn't even particularly forceful. But there was something in her voice, some quiet authority that made him obey without thinking. He slid into the booth, suddenly very aware of how out of place he was. His jacket was still damp, his jeans worn at the knees, his shoes scuffed from chasing Lily around the playground that afternoon. The woman across from him looked like she belonged in a boardroom, not a dive bar in the rain. I'm Victoria, she said. Adrian. Oh, so Adrian, who are you supposed to meet? A woman named Sarah. My sister set it up. I don't even know her last name. Victoria's lips twitched, almost a smile. And instead you found me. Instead, I found you. She leaned back, one arm draped over the edge of the booth, the other resting on the table. Do you make a habit of approaching the wrong women in bars? First time? Actually. How's it going so far? I haven't been thrown out yet. This time she did smile. Small, controlled, but real. The night's still young. Adrian felt something loosen in his chest. He didn't know what he was doing. Didn't know why he wasn't getting up and finding Sarah. Didn't know why sitting across from this stranger felt easier than anything had felt in weeks. But he stayed. A server appeared at the edge of the table, a young guy with a sleeve of tattoos and a bored expression. What can I get you? Victoria glanced at Adrian. Whiskey? Yeah, neat. 2, she said to the server, who nodded and disappeared. They sat in silence for a moment. Not awkward, just present. The rain pounded against the windows. The bar carried on around them, and Adrian wondered if he'd accidentally stumbled into someone else's life. "So why are you here?" Victoria asked. "I told you. Blind date." "No. I mean, why are you really here?" Adrian looked at her. The question wasn't casual. She wanted an actual answer. "Because my sister thinks I need to move on. Because I've been a mess for 2 months, and she's worried I'm going to stay that way. Because sitting at home alone felt worse than coming out and pretending to be normal." Victoria nodded slowly. "And are you moving on?" "No." The server returned with their drinks. Adrian wrapped his hand around the glass, felt the cool weight of it, the burn of the whiskey when he took a sip. It didn't fix anything, but it grounded him. "What about you?" he asked. "Why are you here?" Victoria hesitated, just for a second, but he caught it. "Same reason, probably," she said. "Avoiding something." "What are you avoiding?" She swirled her glass, watching the amber liquid catch the light. "Going home to an empty apartment. Answering emails. Pretending I care about the things I'm supposed to care about." Sassy. Adrian studied her. There was something fragile underneath the polished surface, something she was holding together with sheer will. "Rough breakup?" he guessed. 7 years. Ended 3 months ago. Jesus. It was slow. We stopped being good for each other a long time before we admitted it. She took a drink. "You?" 2 months. She said I wasn't present, that I was always distracted, always somewhere else. "Were you?" He nodded. "Yeah, I was." "Kids?" "One, Lily. She's 6. Victoria's expression softened. "That's hard. Hardest thing I've ever done. And I keep screwing it up." "You're here, aren't you? Trying?" "Trying and failing are basically the same thing at this point." She leaned forward slightly. "No, they're not." The way she said it, firm, like she'd decided something, made him believe her, even if he didn't believe himself. They talked. Not about the breakups, not about the things that hurt. They talked about the absurd, about how neither of them understood why people put pineapple on pizza, about the last good movie they'd seen, about whether dogs or cats were better. Small things, stupid things, the kind of conversation that shouldn't matter but somehow did. An hour passed, then another. Adrian forgot about Sarah, forgot about the rain, forgot about the weight he'd been carrying since the night his ex told him she couldn't do this anymore. Couldn't keep waiting for him to show up. "Can I ask you something?" Victoria said. "Sure." "Why did you stay when you realized I wasn't Sarah?" Adrian thought about it. "Honestly, I don't know. You told me to sit, and I just did." "That's it? That's it." She smiled again. This time it reached her eyes. "You're terrible at blind dates. Worst in the city, probably. Good thing this isn't one." The server came by again, asked if they wanted another round. They both said yes without hesitation. Victoria shifted in her seat, her gaze steady on him. "You said you weren't present with your ex." "Yeah." "Why?" Adrian exhaled. "Because I was working all the time. Because I thought providing was the same thing as being there. Because I didn't know how to turn off the part of my brain that was always planning, always worrying, always trying to stay ahead. And now? Now I'm trying to figure out how to be the kind of father Lily deserves. And I don't know if I can." Victoria didn't say anything for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was quieter. "I spent 7 years with someone who loved the idea of me more than the actual person, and I let him. Because it was easier than admitting I was lonely." Adrian looked at her, really looked, past the expensive clothes, past the controlled exterior. He saw the same thing he felt in himself, someone who'd lost their way and didn't know how to find it again. "That's the thing about being lonely," he said. "You can be surrounded by people and still feel it." "Yeah." They didn't need to say more. The understanding was there, unspoken but solid. The bar started to thin out. Midnight came and went. The server stopped asking if they wanted refills and just brought them. The rain outside finally eased, turning from a downpour to a drizzle. Victoria checked her phone. "I should go." Adrian nodded. He didn't want her to. Didn't want this night to end. But he wasn't going to say that. They stood. He walked her to the door, both of them stepping out into the cool, damp air. The streets were still wet, reflecting the glow of streetlights and storefronts. Victoria turned to him. Thank you. For what? For being honest, for not pretending. Same to you. She hesitated, then pulled a card from her coat pocket. Plain white, just a name and a number. If you ever want to talk again, or not talk, just sit. Adrian took the card. Victoria Hale. No title? No company name. Just her. I'd like that, he said. She smiled one last time, then turned and walked toward a black car waiting at the curb. Adrian watched her go, standing in the drizzle until the taillights disappeared around the corner. He looked down at the card in his hand. His phone buzzed. Emma, where are you? Sarah said you never showed up. Adrian stared at the message, then he typed back. I found someone else. He didn't explain, didn't know how to. Instead, he slipped the card into his pocket and started walking back to his car, the rain picking up again, soaking through his jacket. But for the first time in months, he didn't mind. The next morning, Adrian woke to Lily jumping on the couch where he'd crashed at Emma's place. Her dark curls were a mess, her pajamas twisted from sleep, and she was holding her stuffed rabbit like a weapon. Daddy, wake up! We're going to be late! He groaned, pulling the blanket over his head. Late for what? Saturday cartoons. Emma appeared in the doorway, coffee mug in hand, eyebrow raised. You look like hell. Thanks. How was the date? Adrian sat up, rubbing his face. Lily climbed into his lap, snuggling against his chest. It wasn't what I expected. That bad? No, that good. Emma's expression shifted. Wait, really? I'll tell you later. She gave him a look that said you better, then disappeared back into the kitchen. Adrian held Lily, breathing in the smell of her shampoo, feeling her small heartbeat against his ribs. This was what mattered. This was what he'd been missing. Daddy? Yes, sweetheart? Are you sad? He kissed the top of her head. Not right now. Good. I don't like when you're sad. Me neither. They sat like that for a while, the TV playing some bright, noisy cartoon Lily loved. Adrian's mind drifted back to the night before, to Victoria, to the way she'd looked at him like he was worth listening to, like his mess didn't make him less. He pulled out his phone and stared at her number. Then he put it away. Not yet. He didn't want to seem desperate, didn't want to ruin whatever that was by moving too fast. But later, he'd text her. 3 days passed. Adrian worked his regular shift at the design firm, sitting in his cubicle under fluorescent lights, drafting layouts for a client who kept changing their mind. It was mind-numbing work, the kind that paid the bills but drained him dry. He thought about Victoria more than he should, wondered what she did for a living, wondered if she'd been serious about wanting to talk again. On Wednesday night, after putting Lily to bed, he finally sent the text. Hey, it's Adrian. From the bar. How's your week? He hit send before he could overthink it. 5 minutes later, his phone buzzed. Terrible. Yours? He smiled. Same. Want to not talk about it? Yes. Murphy's, tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Adrian stared at the screen, his heart doing that stupid fast thing again. This was a bad idea. He barely knew her. She was clearly out of his league in every measurable way, and he was still a wreck from the last relationship. But he was going. Thursday night came. Adrian showed up early, same booth as before. He ordered a drink and waited, watching the door like an idiot. Victoria walked in at exactly 8. Same sharp eyes, same controlled elegance, but this time she was wearing jeans and a sweater. Still put together, but softer somehow. She slid into the booth across from him. You came. So did you. I almost didn't. Why? Because this feels dangerous. Adrian frowned. Dangerous how? She met his gaze. 'Cause I don't know you, and I want to. Something in his chest tightened. The server appeared, took their orders, left them alone again. Tell me something, Victoria said. Something real. Adrian thought about it. I'm terrified I'm going to be the kind of father my daughter resents when she's older. The kind who was there, but not really there. Victoria didn't flinch. Tell me more. So he did. He told her about the nights Lily cried herself to sleep because Mommy and Daddy were fighting, about the time he missed her school play because of a deadline, about how he didn't know how to fix any of it. And Victoria listened, really listened, not just waiting for her turn to talk, but absorbing it, holding it, making space for it. When he finished, she was quiet for a moment. I fired 12 people last quarter, she said. Adrian blinked. What? 12. Some of them had families, kids, and I did it because the numbers said it was necessary, because growth mattered more than people. That's your job. Is it? Or is that just what I tell myself so I can sleep at night? He didn't have an answer for that. They kept talking. Hours slipped by again. The bar filled and emptied around them. At some point, Adrian realized he hadn't thought about his ex once, hadn't thought about work or bills or the weight of everything he was supposed to be carrying. He was just here, present. When they finally left, the air outside was warmer, almost spring-like. They walked to the corner together, neither of them in a hurry. Same time next week? Victoria asked. Yeah. She reached out, squeezed his hand once, then let go. Good. Adrian watched her leave again, but this time it didn't feel like an ending. It felt like the beginning of something he didn't have a name for yet. The weeks blurred together every Thursday. Same bar, same booth. They never ran out of things to say. They talked about childhood, about dreams they'd given up on, about fears they didn't admit to anyone else. Adrian learned that Victoria ran a company, a big one. She didn't say which, but he could tell from the way she talked about boardrooms and investors and hostile takeovers that it wasn't small. She learned that he'd wanted to be an architect once, that he'd given up on it when Lily came along because stability mattered more than passion. That's bullshit, she said one night, her second whiskey making her blunt. Excuse me? You gave up. You didn't have to. I had a kid. I needed steady income. And now? What's stopping you? Fear, probably. But then stop being afraid. He laughed. That easy, huh? No, but nothing worth doing is. Adrian looked at her, this woman who terrified and fascinated him in equal measure, and thought maybe she was right. Their relationship, if that's what it was, existed in a bubble. Just the two of them. Thursday nights, the rest of the world locked outside. They didn't talk about logistics. Didn't define what this was. Didn't ask questions that might pop the bubble. But it was real. Adrian felt it, in the way she texted him random thoughts during the day, in the way he started looking forward to Thursdays more than anything else, in the way they'd started sitting on the same side of the booth instead of across from each other. One night, she leaned her head on his shoulder. He froze. Is this okay? She asked. Yeah. She stayed there. And Adrian, for the first time in what felt like forever, felt something close to peace. Tobo osmis tiboki. 2 months in, things shifted. They were walking to her car after another long night when Victoria stopped. I need to tell you something. Adrian's stomach dropped. Okay. I haven't been completely honest with you. About what? She looked up at him, her expression guarded. My job. My life. Who I am. I don't care who you are. You should. Why? She pulled out her phone, typed something, then handed it to him. Adrian looked at the screen. A news article. A photo of Victoria standing in front of a massive glass building, shaking hands with someone in a suit. The headline read, Victoria Hale, CEO of Hale Industries, announces expansion into European markets. He scrolled. More articles. Forbes profiles. Photos at charity galas. Victoria in power suits speaking at conferences, standing next to politicians and celebrities. He handed the phone back. You're a billionaire. Yes. And you run. What? A tech company? Investment firm. We manage portfolios for corporations, governments, high net worth individuals. Adrian laughed. It came out harsh. Jesus Christ. I should have told you. Yeah, you should have. He walked a few steps away, hands in his pockets, trying to process. Victoria Hale. Not just successful, not just wealthy. Untouchable. Why didn't you? He asked, turning back. Because I liked being someone else. For one night a week, I wasn't the CEO. I wasn't the woman who has to be perfect all the time. I was just me. And what am I? A distraction? Her eyes flashed. Don't. Don't what? Don't reduce this to something it's not. What is it then? She stepped closer. It's the only thing in my life that feels real. Adrian stared at her. The anger drained out of him as fast as it came. I don't fit in your world, he said quietly. I don't want you to fit. I want you to stay exactly who you are. That's not how this works. Why not? He didn't have an answer. Victoria reached out, her hand finding his. I know this complicates things, but I don't want to stop seeing you. Adrian's throat tightened. I don't either. Then we figure it out. How? I don't know, but we do. They stood there, the city humming around them, the space between them charged with everything they weren't saying. Adrian made a decision. Okay. Victoria's shoulders relaxed. Okay? Yeah, we figure it out. She smiled, that real smile, the one she only gave him. And Adrian thought maybe, just maybe, this impossible thing could work, even if he had no idea how. The first time Adrian walked into Hale Industries, he felt like he'd stepped into a different dimension. The lobby was all marble and glass, the kind of space designed to make you feel small. Security guards in crisp uniforms, executives in $1,000 suits gliding past like they owned the air they breathed. He stood by the elevators, clutching a visitor's badge, wondering what the hell he was doing here. Victoria had texted him that morning. Come by for lunch. I want you to see where I spend my days. He almost said no. The revelation about who she really was still sat heavy in his chest, making everything feel precarious. But he'd promised they'd figure it out. So here he was, riding an elevator to the 43rd floor, trying not to look as out of place as he felt. The doors opened to another world. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, sleek furniture that probably cost more than his car, people moving with purpose and urgency. A receptionist smiled at him, perfectly polished, and pointed him toward Victoria's office. He walked down a hallway lined with conference rooms, catching glimpses of people in meetings, presentations on massive screens, the hum of money being made in real time. When he reached the corner office, he stopped. Victoria sat behind a glass desk, phone pressed to her ear, her expression hard in a way he'd never seen. She was mid-sentence, her voice clipped and precise. No, that's unacceptable. I don't care what their timeline is. We set terms they agreed, and now they want to renegotiate? Tell them if they're not prepared to honor the contract, we'll find someone who will. She paused, listening. I'm not interested in excuses, Richard. I'm interested in results. Handle it. She hung up, her jaw tight. Then she saw Adrian standing in the doorway, and her entire demeanor shifted. The hardness melted, replaced by something softer, almost vulnerable. Hey. Hey. She stood, smoothing her skirt, suddenly looking uncertain. You came. You asked me to. I wasn't sure you would. Adrian stepped inside. The office was massive, the view insane. He could see half the city from up here, sprawling out in every direction. This is overwhelming? Yeah. Victoria walked around the desk, stopping a few feet from him. I know this is a lot. It's more than a lot. I'm still the same person you met in that bar. Are you? She flinched, just slightly, but he caught it. I don't know, she admitted. Sometimes I'm not sure who I am anymore. So Adrian looked at her, really looked. The woman in front of him was both the Victoria from Thursday nights and someone else entirely. CEO, billionaire, untouchable. And yet, standing here in her own domain, she looked lost. Come on, she said. Let's get out of here. They took a private elevator down to the parking garage. Victoria's driver was waiting, a black sedan with tinted windows. Adrian climbed in, feeling ridiculous, like he was playing dress-up in someone else's life. They didn't go to a restaurant. Instead, Victoria directed the driver to a small park on the edge of downtown, the kind of place that felt forgotten by the city. They walked along a path lined with trees, the sounds of traffic muted by distance. I hate that office, Victoria said. Could have fooled me. I'm good at pretending. I noticed. She stopped walking, turning to face him. I don't want to pretend with you. Then don't. It's not that simple. Why not? Victoria looked away, her hands shoved in her coat pockets. Because if people knew about us, it would complicate everything. The company, your job, our lives. There are rules, Adrian, power dynamics. I can't just, wait, my job? She met his eyes. You work for a firm that contracts with Hale Industries. We've done business with your company for 3 years. Adrian's stomach dropped. You're kidding. I wish I was. So what does that mean? Right. It means we have to be careful. If anyone found out we were involved, it could trigger an ethics investigation, conflict of interest. It could hurt both of us. Adrian laughed, sharp and bitter. So this is what? A secret? For now? For now, he repeated. And later? I don't know. He turned away, running a hand through his hair. This was insane. All of it. He should walk away right now, cut this off before it got messier. But the thought of not seeing her again made his chest ache. I can't do this halfway, he said quietly. Neither can I. Then what are we doing? Victoria stepped closer. We're trying. That's all I know how to do right now. Adrian looked at her. This impossible woman who terrified and fascinated him, and made another decision he probably shouldn't. Okay? Yeah, but no more secrets. If we're doing this, I need to know what I'm walking into. She nodded. Deal. They stood there in the middle of the park, the city humming around them, and Adrian wondered if he'd just made the best or worst choice of his life. Probably both. The weeks that followed were a study in contradiction. Thursday nights remained theirs, sacred and untouchable. But now there were other nights too. Stolen moments. Victoria showing up at his apartment after Lily was asleep, sitting on his couch drinking cheap wine, talking until 2 in the morning. Adrian meeting her in empty parking garages, climbing into her car for 20 minutes of conversation before she had to get back to a meeting. It felt like being a teenager again, sneaking around, lying to Emma about where he was going, making up excuses when people asked about the smile he couldn't quite hide. But it also felt real in a way nothing had in years. One night, Victoria came over after a particularly brutal board meeting. She looked exhausted, her makeup smudged, her hair coming loose from its usual perfect arrangement. Adrian poured her a glass of wine, and she collapsed on his couch, kicking off her heels. Tell me about your day, she said. Something normal. Lily drew a picture of a dragon at school. She insisted it was anatomically accurate. Victoria smiled. Was it? Not even close. But I told her it was perfect. You're a good dad. I'm trying. She reached out, taking his hand. That's all that matters. They sat like that for a while, her head resting on his shoulder, his fingers tracing absent patterns on her palm. It was quiet, comfortable, the kind of silence that only happened when you trusted someone. I fired someone today, Victoria said softly. Yeah? She was embezzling, small amounts, but over time it added up. That's rough. She had 2 kids, single mom. She cried in my office, begged me not to call the police. Adrian waited. I didn't. I just let her go. Gave her severance she didn't deserve and told her to never come back. Why? Victoria looked up at him. Because I saw myself in her. Not the stealing, but the desperation. The feeling that you're barely holding it together and one wrong move will bring it all crashing down. You're not desperate, aren't I? He didn't have an answer for that. She kissed him then. Soft at first, tentative, like she was asking permission. Adrian kissed her back, his hand sliding into her hair, pulling her closer. It wasn't their first kiss. That had happened 2 weeks ago in her car, frantic and hungry, but this was different, slower, deeper, like they were trying to say things they didn't have words for. When they pulled apart, Victoria's eyes were bright. Stay, Adrian said. I can't. I have a 6 a.m. call with London. Then stay until 5. Well, she smiled. Okay. They moved to his bedroom. Not for sex, though that had happened too, urgent and clumsy and perfect, but just to lie together. Victoria curled against him, her breathing evening out, and Adrian stared at the ceiling, trying to memorize the weight of her in his arms. This wouldn't last. He knew that. The universe didn't let people like him keep people like her, but for now, he had this. And that was enough. Except it wasn't. Not really. Because the more time they spent together, the harder it became to keep pretending this was simple. Victoria started showing up at places she shouldn't. At Lily's soccer game, standing at the edge of the field in sunglasses and a baseball cap, trying to blend in. At Emma's birthday dinner, introduced as a friend, while his sister gave him a look that said she wasn't buying it for a second. And Adrian started noticing things. The way Victoria's phone never stopped buzzing, the way she flinched when it rang late at night, the exhaustion that clung to her like a second skin. "You're burning out," he told her one Thursday night. "I'm fine." "You're not." She set down her glass, her jaw tight. "What do you want me to say? That I'm tired? That I hate my job half the time? That I don't know how to stop?" "Yeah, I want you to say that." "Why?" "Because it's the truth." Victoria looked at him, her defenses cracking. "I don't know how to do anything else. This is who I am." "No, it's what you do. There's a difference. Is there?" "Yeah, there is." She was quiet for a long time. When she spoke again, her voice was small. "I'm scared." "Of what?" "That if I stop, I'll realize I wasted 7 years becoming someone I don't even like." Adrian reached across the table, taking her hand. "Then stop." "It's not that easy," said. "I know, but you don't have to do it alone." She squeezed his hand, her eyes shining. "I don't deserve you. Stop saying that. It's true." "It's not." They sat there, hands linked across the table, and Adrian felt something shift. This wasn't just an affair anymore. It wasn't just stolen moments and secret meetings. It was real. Messy and complicated and terrifying, but real. And that scared him more than anything. The cracks started showing a month later. Adrian was at work when he got pulled into his boss's office. Gerald Winters, a man who looked perpetually annoyed, sat behind his desk, shuffling papers. "Close the door." Adrian did, his stomach nodding. "We're restructuring the Hale Industries account," Gerald said. "Consolidating teams. You're being moved to a different project." "Why?" "Because I said so." "That's not a reason." Gerald looked up, his expression hard. "You want a reason? Fine. Someone at Hale requested it. Said there might be a conflict of interest with you on the account. I don't know what you did, but fix it." Adrian's blood ran cold. "Who requested it?" "Does it matter? You're off the account. End of discussion." He left the office in a daze, pulled out his phone, texted Victoria. "Did you get me pulled from the Hale account?" 3 dots appeared. Disappeared? Appeared again. "Yes." "Why?" "We need to talk." "Not over text." Adrian shoved his phone in his pocket and went back to his desk. He couldn't focus, couldn't think. By the time his shift ended, he was wound so tight he felt like he might snap. Victoria was waiting outside his building when he got home, leaning against her car, arms crossed, looking like she'd rather be anywhere else. "Explain," Adrian said. "Someone saw us. At the park. They sent an anonymous tip to HR." "What kind of tip?" "That we were involved. That it was inappropriate given the business relationship." "So you threw me under the bus?" "I protected you," Victoria shot back. "If I hadn't requested the transfer, they would have launched an investigation. Your job would have been at risk. Mine too. You didn't even ask me." "There wasn't time." Adrian laughed, harsh and bitter. "Right. Because you're used to making decisions without consulting anyone. That's not fair, sis." "Isn't it? You run everything, Victoria. Your company, your life, apparently my career. When do I get a say?" Her eyes flashed. "You think this is easy for me? You think I wanted this? I don't know what you want. You won't tell me." "I want you." The words came out raw, desperate. "I want this, but I can't have it and keep everything else intact. Something has to give." "Then let something give." "It's not that simple." "Stop saying that." They stood there both breathing hard, the space between them charged with anger and frustration and something deeper neither of them wanted to name. "I can't keep doing this," Adrian said quietly. Victoria's face went pale. "What does that mean?" "It means I need more than stolen moments and secrets. I need something real. This is real." "Is it? Because from where I'm standing, it feels like I'm a footnote in your life. something you fit in between board meetings and conference calls. That's not true. Then prove it. How? I don't know, but figure it out, because I can't be the only one fighting for this. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. She blinked them back, her jaw set. I'm fighting too. Are you? Yes. Then show me. She didn't respond, just stood there looking lost and broken and so damn beautiful it hurt to look at her. Adrian turned and walked into his building, leaving her standing on the sidewalk. He didn't look back, didn't trust himself to. Inside his apartment, he leaned against the door and tried to breathe. His phone buzzed. Victoria. I'm sorry. He stared at the message, didn't reply. Another buzz. Victoria. I don't know how to do this, but I want to learn. Adrian closed his eyes. Then he typed back. Me too. The next few weeks were different, quieter. They still saw each other, but the urgency had faded, replaced by something more careful, more intentional. Victoria started making changes, small ones at first, leaving work at 6 instead of 9, turning off her phone during their Thursday nights, showing up at Lily's games without being asked. Adrian noticed. He didn't say anything, but he noticed. One Saturday, Victoria invited him and Lily to her place. Adrian had never been there before. He'd imagined some sterile penthouse, all glass and chrome and emptiness. He was wrong. Her apartment was warm, lived in. Books everywhere, plants on the windowsills, a worn couch that looked like it had been loved for years. Lily ran straight for the bookshelf, pulling down titles with wide eyes. Can I read this one? Victoria smiled. You can read all of them. While Lily settled in with a stack of picture books, Victoria led Adrian to the kitchen. She poured him coffee, her movements easy and familiar. This isn't what I expected, he said. What did you expect? I don't know, something colder. I saved the cold for work. Why? She leaned against the counter, her mug cradled in both hands. Because if I let myself feel there, I'd fall apart. Adrian set his coffee down and crossed to her. He didn't say anything, just pulled her into his arms and held her. Victoria melted into him, her forehead resting against his chest. I'm trying. I know. Is it enough? It's getting there. They stood like that until Lily called out, asking if she could have a snack. Victoria laughed, pulling away, and went to rummage through her cabinets. She found crackers and cheese, set them on a plate, and brought them to Lily like it was the most natural thing in the world. Adrian watched them. His daughter, chattering about the dragon book she'd found. This woman, listening like every word mattered. Something in his chest loosened. Maybe this could work. Maybe they could figure it out. That night, after Lily fell asleep on Victoria's couch, they sat together in the dim light, talking in low voices. I want you to meet someone, Victoria said. Who? My brother. He's in town next week. I told him about you. Adrian blinked. You did? He thinks I'm insane, but he wants to meet you anyway. And you want me to meet him? Yeah, if that's okay. It was more than okay. It was everything. Yeah, Adrian said. I'd like that, Victoria smiled. That real smile. The one he'd fallen for in a dive bar on the worst night of his life. Good. They kissed, slow and sweet, and Adrian thought maybe, just maybe, they were finally figuring it out. But the universe had other plans. 2 days later, Adrian's phone rang at work. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer. Hello? Is this Adrian Cole? Yeah? Who's this? My name is Marcus Reed. I'm a journalist. I'm working on a story about Victoria Hale, and I'd like to ask you a few questions. Adrian's blood turned to ice. I don't know what you're talking about. I think you do. We have photos of you and Ms. Hale together, multiple occasions. I'm trying to verify the nature of your relationship before we publish. There's nothing to verify. Mr. Cole, I'm giving you a chance to tell your side. If you don't, I'll have to draw my own conclusions. Adrian hung up. His hands were shaking. He called Victoria. She answered on the first ring. We have a problem. Victoria's office felt like a war room. She'd cleared her schedule, locked the door, and now sat across from Adrian with her head of legal, a sharp-eyed woman named Patricia Moss, who looked like she ate journalists for breakfast. Tell me exactly what he said, Patricia demanded, pen poised over a yellow legal pad. Adrian repeated the conversation word for word. Marcus Reed. Photos. Story. Verification. Patricia's expression didn't change. Did he say when they're planning to publish? No. Did he specify which publication? No. Did you confirm or deny anything? I hung up. Patricia nodded, making notes. Good. Don't talk to him again. Don't talk to anyone. If he calls back, you forward it to me immediately. Victoria had been silent through the whole exchange, her face unreadable. Now she spoke, her voice tight. How bad is this? Patricia set down her pen. Depends on what they have. If it's just photos of you two in public places, it's gossip. Annoying but manageable. If they have proof of a professional conflict, it becomes a business story. That's harder to contain. We didn't do anything wrong, Adrian said. Doesn't matter. Perception is everything. If the story frames this as a powerful CEO involved with a subordinate employee, even indirectly through contracting relationships, it looks bad. The board will have questions. Shareholders will have questions. And once those questions start, they don't stop. Victoria stood abruptly, pacing to the window. Who would do this? Ex-boyfriend? Patricia suggested. Victoria went very still. James? Who's James? Adrian asked. My ex, the 7-year relationship I told you about. He works in private equity. We ended badly. How badly? Victoria turned to face them. He wanted me to step down from the company, said it was too much stress, that we'd never have a real life if I stayed in this position. When I refused, he gave me an ultimatum. The company or him. And you chose the company, Patricia said. I chose myself. He didn't take it well. Adrian felt sick. You think he's behind this? Oh, James knows people, media people, and he's vindictive enough to make a move like this if he thought it would hurt me. Patricia tapped her pen against the pad. If it is him, Patricia tapped her pen. We need to get ahead of it. I'll reach out to some contacts, see what I can find out. In the meantime, you two need to decide how you want to handle this. What do you mean? Adrian asked. I mean, if this story breaks, you have two options. Deny everything and hope it goes away, or get out in front of it with your own narrative. Victoria shook her head. We can't go public. Not like this. Then you're letting someone else control the story. I don't care. I'm not putting Adrian through that. Patricia looked at Adrian. What do you want? Everyone was staring at him now. Adrian felt the weight of it, the pressure to say the right thing, but he didn't know what the right thing was anymore. I don't want to hide, he said finally, but I also don't want to make this worse for her. Patricia gathered her papers. Think about it. I'll dig into this Marcus Reed, see what we're really dealing with. But Victoria, you need to prepare yourself. If this goes public, it's going to get ugly. After Patricia left, Adrian and Victoria sat in silence. The city spread out below them, oblivious and indifferent. I'm sorry, Victoria said quietly. For what? For dragging you into my mess. I walked into it willingly. You didn't know what you were walking into. Adrian stood, crossing to where she sat. He knelt in front of her, taking her hands. Yes, I did. Maybe not the specifics. But I knew being with you would be complicated. I chose it anyway. Why? Because you're worth it. Her eyes filled with tears. What if I'm not? You are. She pulled him up, kissing him hard, desperate, like she was trying to hold on to something slipping away. Adrian kissed her back, his hands in her hair, and for a moment the world narrowed to just this, just them. When they broke apart, Victoria's phone was buzzing. She glanced at it and her expression hardened. It's James. Answer it. Adrian Skeets? Answer it. Let's find out if he's behind this. Victoria hesitated, then swiped to accept. She put it on speaker. Hello, James. Victoria. His voice was smooth, cultivated, the kind that came from expensive schools and country clubs. I heard you've been keeping interesting company lately. What do you want? Just checking in, making sure you're doing well. I heard there might be some unflattering stories circulating soon. Wanted to give you a heads up. Victoria's jaw clenched. Did you plant the story, eh? Me? I would never. But you know how these things work. People talk, journalists dig. Sometimes the truth just has a way of coming out. This is revenge because I wouldn't quit for you. But James laughed. Don't flatter yourself. This is business. You built your reputation on being untouchable, above reproach. Turns out you're just as messy as the rest of us. The market deserves to know that. You're trying to tank my stock price. I'm trying to remind everyone that you're human, fallible, not the perfect ice queen everyone thinks you are. Adrian grabbed the phone before Victoria could stop him. This is Adrian Cole, for silence on the other end. Then, the boyfriend. How charming. You want to come after her, come after her. But leave me out of it. I'm afraid that's not how this works. You're part of the story now. The struggling single father swept up by a billionaire. It's very Cinderella. People will eat it up. Ursima, you're a piece of work, and you're out of your depth. Enjoy your 15 minutes. It won't last. James hung up. Adrian set the phone down, his hands shaking with rage. Victoria was staring at him. You shouldn't have done that. Someone needed to. He's going to use that against us. Let him. I'm done hiding. No. Victoria stood, pacing again. You don't understand. If he's coordinating this, it's not just about revenge. He's positioning himself. He has investments in competing firms. If my reputation takes a hit, Hale Industries' value drops. His portfolios win. So what do? I don't know. The story broke 2 days later. Adrian was picking Lily up from school when his phone started blowing up. Texts from Emma, from coworkers, from people he hadn't spoken to in years. He ignored them until he got Lily buckled in, then checked. Emma had sent a link. Business Insider. The headline read, Hale Industries CEO Victoria Hale allegedly involved with contracted employee raising ethics questions. Adrian felt his stomach drop. The article was careful, legally vetted, but damning. It outlined the business relationship between Hale Industries and Adrian's firm, mentioned anonymous sources claiming they'd seen Victoria and Adrian together multiple times, questioned whether appropriate ethical boundaries had been maintained. There were photos, grainy but recognizable. The two of them at the park, outside his building, at Lily's soccer game. The comments section was brutal. Another rich person playing by different rules. This is why we need stronger corporate oversight. She's always acted like she's better than everyone. Guess not. Adrian pulled over, his vision swimming. Lily was singing to herself in the back seat, oblivious. He wanted to keep her that way. Wanted to protect her from this. His phone rang. Victoria. I saw it, he said before she could speak. Patricia's drafting a response. We're going to deny any wrongdoing, emphasize that you were removed from the account the moment any potential conflict was identified. That makes it sound like we did something wrong. We didn't, but we have to be strategic about this. I don't want to be strategic. I want to tell the truth. The truth is complicated, but the truth is we're together and we didn't break any rules. Victoria was quiet for a long moment. I can't do this right now. I have the board in 20 minutes. They're calling an emergency meeting. Victoria, I have to go. She hung up. Adrian sat there, his daughter humming in the back seat, and felt the world closing in. The fallout was immediate and relentless. Adrian's boss called him into the office the next morning, his expression grim. You need to take a leave of absence. What? Why? Because your name is all over the business news and we can't afford the association right now. It's paid leave, just until this dies down. I didn't do anything wrong. I believe you, but it doesn't matter. This is damage control. Adrian left the building feeling numb. His phone kept buzzing. More messages, more articles. Someone had found his social media and the comments were vicious. Emma showed up at his apartment that night, took one look at him, and pulled him into a hug. I'm so sorry. I should have listened to you. About what? When you said I wasn't ready to date. You were right. Emma pulled back, her hands on his shoulders. No, I was wrong. You deserve to be happy. The situation is messed up, but that doesn't mean what you have with her isn't real. It doesn't feel real anymore. It feels like a nightmare. Where is she? Dealing with her board. Have you talked to her? She's too busy managing the crisis. Emma's expression hardened. She needs to make time for you. She's got a company to save. And you've got a life that's falling apart. She doesn't get to just hide while you take all the heat. Adrian knew Emma was right, but he also understood the impossible position Victoria was in. She was fighting for her entire career, for everything she'd built. He couldn't fault her for that, except he did. A little bit. Because even though he understood, it still hurt to feel like he was facing this alone. The board meeting lasted 4 hours. Victoria sat at the head of the conference table, facing 12 sets of eyes ranging from concerned to hostile. Patricia sat beside her, a stack of documents at the ready. Martin Crawford, the oldest board member and the one who'd never quite trusted Victoria's leadership, spoke first. "This is unacceptable." "There was no ethics violation," Victoria said, her voice steady. "Adrian Cole was removed from any projects involving Hale Industries the moment I became aware of a potential conflict. But you were aware there was a relationship before that removal occurred," another board member, Sarah Chen, pointed out. "How long?" Victoria hesitated. Lying would be worse than the truth. 2 months. The room erupted, voices overlapping, accusations flying. Patricia held up a hand. "Let's be clear about the timeline. Ms. Hale and Mr. Cole met independently of any professional context. When the relationship developed, she immediately took steps to mitigate any conflict. That's exactly what our ethics policy requires." Martin leaned forward. "The optics are terrible. Our stock dropped 3% this morning. Investors are spooked. And for what? A relationship that could have been handled discreetly?" "It was handled discreetly," Victoria shot back, "until someone weaponized it. You think this was deliberate?" "I know it was. My ex-boyfriend has financial incentives to see this company's value decrease. He orchestrated this leak." Sarah frowned. "Can you prove that?" "We're working on it." "Working on it isn't good enough," Martin said. "We need certainty, and we need a plan to restore confidence." Patricia slid a document across the table. "We've prepared a statement emphasizing Ms. Hale's commitment to ethical leadership and the proactive steps taken to address any potential conflicts. We're also considering legal action against the publication for defamation. That'll just keep the story alive," another board member said. "So we're doing nothing," Patricia countered. The debate went on for another hour. By the time they broke, Victoria felt like she'd aged a decade. Martin pulled her aside as everyone filed out. "I want you to succeed," he said, his voice lower. "But you need to understand something. This company is bigger than you, bigger than any relationship. If the choice comes down to protecting Hale Industries or protecting your personal life, there's only one right answer." Victoria met his eyes. "I know what this company means. I built it, and you can lose it just as fast." He left her standing there, his words echoing in her head. When Victoria finally made it home that night, it was past midnight. She poured herself a drink, stood at her window looking out at the city, and let herself feel the weight of it all. Her phone buzzed. "Adrian, are you okay?" She stared at the message. The honest answer was no, she wasn't okay. She was terrified and exhausted and drowning in consequences she hadn't fully anticipated. But she couldn't say that. Not to him. Not when he was dealing with his own fallout. "I'm fine. Board meeting went as well as could be expected. Can I see you?" Victoria closed her eyes. She wanted to see him, wanted to fall into his arms and forget about boards and stocks and ethics investigations. But she couldn't afford the distraction right now. Not tonight. "I have calls with investors in the morning. Need to prep." The 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Okay. That single word carried more weight than anything else he could have said. Victoria set her phone down and drank her whiskey, hating herself a little bit more with each sip. 3 days passed. Victoria worked 18-hour days, taking meetings, reassuring investors, doing damage control. Adrian sent a few texts. She responded when she could, short messages that said nothing of substance. Emma cornered her on the 4th day. Victoria had agreed to meet her at a coffee shop, neutral territory. Emma showed up looking like she was ready for a fight. "You're handling this wrong," Emma said without preamble. "Excuse me? My brother is falling apart and you're too busy playing CEO to notice." Victoria bristled. "I'm trying to save my company. At his expense. That's not fair." "Isn't it? He's on forced leave. His name is being dragged through the mud. And you're what? Hiding behind lawyers and PR statements?" I'm doing what I have to do. No, you're doing what's easiest. The hard thing would be standing next to him instead of behind a desk. Victoria's hands tightened around her coffee cup. You don't understand the pressure I'm under. And you don't understand what he's risking for you. He could walk away, make this all go away. But he's not. Because he loves you. The words hit like a punch. Emma leaned forward. So here's the question. Do you love him back? Or is he just another thing you're managing? Victoria opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. I don't know, she admitted. Emma's expression softened. Then you need to figure it out, because he deserves better than maybe. After Emma left, Victoria sat alone with her cooling coffee and faced the truth she'd been avoiding. She did love Adrian, loved him in a way that scared her, that made her want to burn down everything she'd built just to keep him. But love wasn't enough. It had never been enough. She'd loved James too once, and that love had turned toxic, suffocating, a weight that dragged her down until she had no choice but to cut herself free. What if this was the same? What if she and Adrian were just two broken people clinging to each other, mistaking need for love? Her phone rang. Patricia, we found something. Victoria straightened. What? Marcus Reed, the journalist who contacted Adrian. He received a $50,000 payment from a shell company 2 weeks ago. We traced it back. Company's owned by James. Victoria's blood ran cold. He paid for the story. Looks like it, which means we can sue for defamation and tortious interference. But there's a catch. What? Going after James means this story stays in the news cycle for months, maybe longer. Every detail of your relationship with Adrian will be scrutinized. His custody arrangement, your business dealings, everything. It'll be brutal. What's the alternative? We let it die. Issue a bland statement, wait for the next scandal to replace yours. It's slower but cleaner. Victoria closed her eyes. What would you do? Patricia was quiet for a moment. I'd fight, but I'm not the one who has to live with the consequences. That night, Victoria drove to Adrian's apartment. She didn't call ahead, didn't plan what she was going to say. She just showed up. He opened the door looking exhausted. His hair was a mess, his eyes red-rimmed. Victoria, can I come in? He stepped aside. The apartment was quiet. Lily was asleep. Adrian led Victoria to the kitchen, poured her a glass of water she didn't ask for. I'm sorry, she said. For what? For disappearing. For making you deal with this alone. Adrian leaned against the counter. You had a company to save. That's not an excuse, isn't it? She flinched at the edge in his voice. I'm trying, she said. I know I'm not doing it right, but I'm trying. Trying to do what? Keep your company? Keep me? Both? I don't know. Adrian laughed, bitter. That seems to be your answer for everything lately. That's not fair. Fair? You want to talk about fair? I'm on leave from my job. People I've never met are calling me a gold digger online. My daughter asked me why people are saying mean things about Daddy. And you've been too busy to even check in. Guilt crashed over her. I'm sorry. Stop apologizing and do something. Like what? Like decide if this is worth fighting for. Victoria met his eyes. It is. You are. Then prove it. She stepped closer. We have evidence that James paid for the story. We can sue him, expose what he did. But it'll mean dragging this out, putting us both under more scrutiny. Do it. Adrian, no. I'm done hiding. I'm done letting people control the narrative. If we're going to do this, we do it right. We fight back. Victoria felt something crack open in her chest. It's going to get worse before it gets better. I know. Your job, your reputation, maybe even your custody arrangement. All of it could be at risk. I know. Why? Why would you put yourself through that? Adrian crossed the space between them, his hands framing her face. Because I love you, and I'm tired of being afraid. Victoria's breath caught. I love you too. Then let's stop running. She kissed him, hard and desperate, and for the first time in weeks, she felt like she could breathe. When they pulled apart, Adrian's expression was serious. But I need something from you. What? I need you to let me in, all the way. No more handling things alone, No more shutting me out when things get hard. We're in this together, or we're not in it at all. Victoria nodded, tears streaming down her face. Together. Promise me. I promise. They held each other in the quiet kitchen, the weight of the decision settling over them. This was it, the point of no return. Tomorrow, they'd call Patricia. They'd file the lawsuit. They'd tell the truth and let the pieces fall where they would. But tonight, they had this. Each other. And for now, that was enough. The lawsuit hit the news like a bomb. Patricia filed it on a Friday morning, timing it perfectly to dominate the weekend news cycle. Defamation. Tortious interference. Conspiracy to damage reputation. The filing included bank records showing the payment from James's shell company to Marcus Reed, emails between them discussing strategy, and a timeline that made it crystal clear this had been orchestrated. Adrian was at Emma's place when his phone started going crazy. He'd spent the night there with Lily, trying to maintain some normalcy while the world lost its mind around them. Emma handed him her tablet, already pulled up to the news. Hale Industries CEO fights back. Lawsuit claims ex-boyfriend. Orchestrated smear campaign. The article laid out everything. James's financial incentives, the payment to the journalist, the calculated timing designed to tank Victoria's reputation and stock price. It reframed the entire narrative from CEO in ethical gray area to successful woman targeted by vindictive ex. The comment sections were already shifting. I knew something felt off about that first story. This is why we need to believe women when they say their exes are toxic. James Rutherford is trash. Hope he gets what's coming to him. Adrian read through it all, feeling something between relief and dread. They'd done it. They'd fought back. But now there was no going back. Emma sat down next to him. How do you feel? Terrified. That's fair. Lily wandered in, still in her pajamas, clutching her rabbit. Is Daddy on the news again? Emma shot Adrian a look. He knelt down to Lily's level. Yeah, sweetheart. But it's okay. Just some grown-up stuff. Is Victoria in trouble? No. She's fighting back against someone who wasn't very nice to her. Lily considered this. Like when Tommy pushed me on the playground and I told the teacher? Exactly like that. Okay. She wandered off to watch cartoons, satisfied with that explanation. Adrian stood, his legs shaky. Emma squeezed his shoulder. She's going to be fine. Kids are resilient. I hope you're right. His phone rang. Victoria. Did you see it? She asked. Yeah. James is going to respond. Patricia says to expect a statement by end of day claiming it's all lies. Let him. We have the evidence. I know, but this is going to get messier before it gets better. Adrian could hear the strain in her voice. Where are you? Office. I've been here since 5. Have you eaten? I had coffee. That's not food. Adrian, I'm bringing you lunch. No arguments. She was quiet for a moment, then softer. Okay. An hour later, Adrian walked into Hale Industries carrying takeout containers and feeling every bit as out of place as the first time. But this time he didn't care. The receptionist recognized him, gave him a sympathetic smile, and waved him through. Victoria's office door was open. She sat behind her desk, surrounded by papers, her hair pulled back in a messy knot. She looked up when he entered, and something in her expression cracked. You came. I said I would. He set the food down, and she stood, crossing to him. They held each other for a long moment, neither speaking. I'm scared, she whispered against his shoulder. Me too. What if we lose? Then we lose, but at least we went down fighting. She pulled back, wiping her eyes. When did you get so brave? I'm not brave. I'm just tired of being afraid. They ate lunch together, sitting on the couch in her office instead of at the massive desk. Victoria picked at her food, her mind clearly elsewhere. The board wants another meeting, she said. Monday morning. What for? To discuss my future with the company. Adrian's stomach dropped. They're thinking about removing you? Martin's been pushing for it. Says I've become a liability. That's insane. Is it? Our stock is down 7% this week. We've lost 2 major contracts because clients are worried about instability. And now we're in a public legal battle that's going to drag on for months. None of that is your fault. I'm still responsible. Adrian set down his fork. You built this company from nothing. You turned it into a billion-dollar empire. One bad quarter doesn't erase that. Tell that to the board. I will if I have to. Oh. Victoria laughed, but there was no humor in it. You can't fight all my battles for me. Watch me. She reached over, taking his hand. What did I do to deserve you? You sat down with a stranger in a bar when you could have told him to get lost. Best mistake I ever made. Second best, Adrian corrected. First was deciding to fight back. They finished eating in comfortable silence. Before Adrian left, Victoria pulled him close and kissed him like she was trying to memorize the feeling. I'll call you tonight, she said. I'll be waiting. James's statement dropped at 4:30, just in time for the evening news. It was exactly what Patricia predicted. He denied everything, called the allegations baseless, claimed Victoria was using her wealth and influence to destroy him because he'd ended their relationship. The media ate it up. Suddenly there were two competing narratives and everyone had an opinion. Social media split into camps. Team Victoria versus Team James. Cable news ran segments debating who was telling the truth. Adrian watched it all unfold from Emma's couch, Lily asleep against his side. His phone buzzed constantly. Reporters requesting interviews. Random people sending messages of support or hatred depending on which side they'd chosen. Emma muted the TV. You should turn that off. I can't stop watching. It's not healthy. None of this is healthy. She grabbed the remote, switched to a cooking show. There. Better. Adrian smiled despite everything. Thanks. Have you thought about what you're going to do? About work? What do you mean? Your leave of absence. It's paid, but it's not permanent. Eventually, they're going to make you choose. Come back or resign. Adrian hadn't let himself think that far ahead. I don't know. Do you even want to go back? I need the income. That's not what I asked. He thought about it. The cubicle, the fluorescent lights, the slow drain of creativity and passion. He'd been going through the motions for years, telling himself it was enough because it paid the bills. No, he admitted, I don't want to go back. Then don't. It's not that simple. Why not? Because I have responsibilities. Lily needs stability. Emma shifted to face him fully. Lily needs a father who's present and happy, not one who's slowly dying inside a job he hates. I can't just quit and become an architect overnight. No, but you can start taking steps. Night classes, freelance projects, something. Adrian looked at his daughter, her face peaceful in sleep. Emma was right. He'd been using Lily as an excuse to stay safe, to avoid risk. But what kind of example was that setting? I'll think about it, he said. Good. The weekend passed in a blur of news coverage and legal strategy sessions. Patricia worked around the clock, building their case. They had James dead to rights on the payment to Marcus Reed. But James's lawyers were claiming it was for legitimate consulting services, that Marcus had approached him with the story idea independently. It was going to come down to credibility, whose version of events the court believed. Monday morning arrived too fast. Victoria dressed in her sharpest suit, armor for war. She arrived at the office early, prepared for the board meeting that would determine her fate. Martin called it to order with barely concealed satisfaction. Let's get right to it. Ms. Hale, the board has concerns about your continued leadership. I'm aware. Our stock price continues to decline. Client confidence is shaken. And this lawsuit, while perhaps justified, is keeping us in the headlines for all the wrong reasons. Victoria kept her voice level. The lawsuit is necessary to clear my name and protect this company's reputation. Or it's an expensive ego trip that's making things worse, Martin countered. Sarah Chen spoke up. I think that's unfair, Martin. Victoria has legitimate grounds for legal action. James Rutherford deliberately tried to sabotage her, and by extension, this company. Allegedly, Martin said, we have bank records, which his lawyers claim are for something else entirely. It's, he said, she said. And while that plays out in court, we're bleeding money and credibility. Patricia, sitting beside Victoria, leaned forward. With respect, Mr. Crawford, this company's fundamentals remain strong. One difficult quarter doesn't justify removing a CEO who's tripled shareholder value in 5 years. It does when that CEO's personal life has become a liability. Victoria felt her temper flare. My personal life is my business, not when it affects our bottom line. The only reason it's affecting anything is because my ex-boyfriend is trying to destroy me. Should I have just let him? You should have handled it quietly. I tried that. He went public anyway. The argument went in circles for an hour. Some board members sided with Victoria, others with Martin. By the time they broke for lunch, nothing had been resolved. Victoria stood in the hallway, shaking with anger and exhaustion. Patricia touched her arm. You need to eat something. I'm not hungry. Eat anyway. You're no good to anyone if you collapse. They went to Victoria's office. Patricia ordered food while Victoria stared out the window. Am I going to lose this? Victoria asked. I don't know. The board's split. It'll come down to a vote. When? They want to reconvene this afternoon, 3 o'clock. Victoria checked her watch. 2 hours to wait. 2 hours to wonder if everything she'd built was about to be taken away. Her phone rang. Adrian. How's it going? He asked. They're voting this afternoon on whether to remove me. Silence on the other end. Then, I'm coming there. Adrian, you can't. I'm coming there. You're not facing this alone. There's nothing you can do. I can be there. That's something. Victoria felt tears threatening. Okay. I'll be there in 30 minutes. He hung up. Victoria looked at Patricia, who was pretending not to have listened to the whole conversation. He's coming, Victoria said unnecessarily. Patricia smiled. Good. You need him. Adrian showed up 20 minutes later, dressed in the nicest clothes he owned, looking determined and terrified in equal measure. Security tried to stop him, but Victoria came down to the lobby herself, took his hand, and brought him up. They sat together in her office while the clock ticked toward 3. Adrian didn't say much, just held her hand and let her lean against him. Thank you, she said quietly. For what? For showing up. Always. At 5 to 3, Patricia knocked. It's time. Victoria stood, smoothed her skirt, took a deep breath. Adrian squeezed her hand once more. You've got this. She wanted to believe him. The boardroom felt like a courtroom. Victoria took her seat at the head of the table, Patricia beside her. The board members filed in, their expressions giving nothing away. Martin called the meeting to order. We've deliberated on the question of Ms. Hale's continued leadership. We'll now proceed to a vote. All in favor of retaining Victoria Hale as CEO, please raise your hand. Victoria's heart hammered. She watched hands go up. Sarah, David, 3 others, 6 total. Those opposed? Martin's hand went up. 4 others joined him. 5, said. One board member, Thomas Grant, hadn't voted yet. Everyone turned to look at him. Thomas was older, quiet, someone who rarely spoke but carried weight when he did. He'd been on the board since Victoria's first year, had watched her build the company from the ground up. Thomas? Martin prompted. Thomas leaned back in his chair. I've been thinking about this all weekend, about what kind of precedent we set here. Victoria held her breath. If we remove Victoria for having a relationship, for fighting back against someone who tried to destroy her reputation, what message does that send? That we only value her when she's perfect? That we'll throw her away the moment she becomes inconvenient? That's not what this is about, Martin said. Isn't it? Thomas looked around the table. I've worked with a lot of CEOs. Most of them were men who had affairs, who played golf with clients while their marriages fell apart, who made questionable decisions, and we looked the other way because they delivered results. Victoria has delivered better results than any of them, and we're ready to fire her over what? A relationship with someone she met outside of work? A lawsuit against a man who provably tried to sabotage her? He shook his head. I can't support that. I vote to retain. 7 to 5. Victoria had won. The room erupted in mixed reactions. Martin looked furious. Sarah was smiling. Patricia's hand found Victoria's under the table and squeezed. Motion to retain passes, Martin said tightly. This meeting is adjourned. Yeah. Victoria sat there, unable to move, as board members filed out. Some congratulated her, others left without a word. When the room finally emptied, She let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. Patricia grinned. You did it. Thomas did it. You earned his loyalty long before today. Victoria stood on shaky legs. I need to go. Tell Adrian. I'll handle the press statement. Victoria practically ran to her office. Adrian was standing by the window, his posture tense. He turned when she entered. Well? I won, 7-5. The relief on his face was everything. He crossed to her, picked her up, spun her around. Victoria laughed, actually laughed, for the first time in weeks. When he set her down, she kissed him, hard and grateful and full of everything she couldn't say. We won, she said against his lips. You won, Ma. No, we did. I couldn't have done this without you. Adrian pulled back, his hands framing her face. What happens now? Now we keep fighting. The lawsuit, rebuilding trust with clients, fixing the damage. It's going to take time. I'm not going anywhere. See, even if it gets worse, even then. Victoria leaned her forehead against his. I love you. I love you too. They stood there, holding each other while the city hummed below, and Victoria felt something she hadn't felt in months, hope. The next few weeks were brutal but manageable. Victoria threw herself into damage control, meeting with clients, reassuring investors, slowly rebuilding what had been broken. The stock price started to recover. Contracts that had been on hold began moving forward again. The lawsuit against James ground on. Depositions, document requests, legal maneuvering. It was exhausting but necessary. Patricia was confident they'd win, but it would take time. Adrian's leave of absence ended. His boss called him in, offered him his old position back. Adrian sat across from Gerald, thinking about what Emma had said, about being present and happy instead of slowly dying inside. I appreciate the offer, Adrian said, but I'm resigning. Gerald blinked. What? I'm done. This job, this career, it's not what I want anymore. You're throwing away a steady income because of some bad press? I'm choosing myself for once. And my daughter. She deserves a father who's actually happy. You'll regret this. Maybe. But I'll regret staying more. Adrian walked out of that office feeling lighter than he had in years. He had no plan, no safety net, just a vague idea about going back to school and some money saved up that wouldn't last long. But he had something more important. He had clarity. That night, he told Victoria over dinner at her place. She'd cooked, an attempt at normalcy that resulted in slightly burned chicken and overcooked vegetables. They ate it anyway. You quit? She asked. Yeah. Without another job lined up? Yeah. Victoria set down her fork. That's terrifying. I know. And brave. I'm not sure about that. She reached across the table. What are you going to do? Yeah. Go back to school. Architecture program at the university. It's a 2-year master's. I can do it part-time while freelancing. How are you going to pay for it? Adrian hesitated. I have some savings. Not much. I'll figure it out. Victoria was quiet for a moment. Let me help. No. Adrian, I said no. This is something I need to do myself. Why? Because if I let you pay for it, it'll always feel like charity. Like I'm just the broke boyfriend getting handouts from his rich girlfriend. Victoria flinched. That's not how I see you. I know, but that's how I'd see myself. She understood. He could see it in her eyes. Okay, but if you need help, actually need it, you'll tell me? I promise. They finished dinner, cleaned up together, and ended up on her couch watching a movie neither of them paid attention to. Halfway through, Victoria's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and her expression changed. What is it? Adrian asked. Patricia. James's lawyers want to settle. Adrian sat up straight. Seriously? Victoria read through the message. They're offering a public apology, admission that the story was planted, and a payment to cover our legal fees. That's good, right? It means they know they're going to lose. They want to cut their losses before it goes to trial. So we won. Victoria looked at him. We won. This time when they kissed, it felt different. Not desperate or afraid, just solid, real. The kind of kiss that said we made it through. The settlement was finalized 2 weeks later. James issued a public statement admitting he'd paid for the story, apologizing to Victoria and Adrian, and acknowledging his actions were motivated by personal vindictiveness. It was humiliating for him and vindicating for them. The news cycle moved on. Another scandal, another story, and suddenly Victoria and Adrian were old news. The attention faded. Life started to feel almost normal again. Almost, because normal now included something they hadn't had before. They were public, out in the open. No more hiding, no more secrets. Victoria could hold Adrian's hand on the street without worrying who might see. Adrian could bring Lily to Victoria's place without making up stories about where they were going. It was freeing and terrifying in equal measure. One Saturday afternoon, Victoria came to Lily's soccer game, not hiding in the back this time, but sitting in the stands next to Adrian, cheering when Lily scored a goal. Afterward, Lily ran over, sweaty and beaming.
Did you see? Did you see? I saw, Victoria said. You were amazing. Lily threw her arms around Victoria's legs. Thanks for coming.
Adrian watched them, his chest tight with something he couldn't name. This was what he'd been missing. Not just love, but family, connection, the feeling that they were building something together. That night, after Lily was asleep, Adrian and Victoria sat on his apartment's tiny balcony, sharing a beer and watching the city lights. I've been thinking, Victoria said, about what comes next. For us. Adrian's heart sped up. What do you mean? I mean, I don't want to keep living in limbo. I want to build a life with you, a real one. We are building a life. I want more than stolen nights and weekends. I want to wake up next to you. I want to have breakfast with Lily. I want the messy, ordinary, everyday stuff. Adrian turned to look at her. Are you asking to move in together? Eventually, not right now. I know Lily needs stability and rushing things would be too much. But soon, when it feels right. When it feels right, Adrian repeated. Victoria smiled. Is that a yes? Yeah, it's a yes. They sat there, hands linked, and Adrian felt the future opening up in front of them. Uncertain still, full of challenges they hadn't faced yet. But possible. Actually possible. For the first time since that rainy night in the bar, he wasn't just surviving, he was living. And it felt like coming home. 6 months later, Adrian stood in the kitchen of Victoria's apartment, their apartment now, watching her attempt to make pancakes while Lily gave directions from her perch on the counter. No, Victoria, you have to flip it when the bubbles pop, not before. Victoria wielded the spatula like it was a hostile witness. I'm trying. This is harder than it looks. Daddy makes it look easy. Daddy's had more practice. Adrian sipped his coffee, enjoying the show. They'd moved in together 2 months ago, a decision that had felt both inevitable and terrifying. Lily had her own room, decorated exactly how she wanted with stars on the ceiling and posters of dragons covering the walls. Emma had helped with the move, making pointed comments about how Victoria's place was 3 times the size of Adrian's entire building. The transition hadn't been smooth. Lily had moments where she missed the old apartment, the familiarity of the life she'd known. Victoria had moments where she didn't know how to be a parent figure, stumbling through bedtime routines and homework help with the awkwardness of someone learning a foreign language. And Adrian had moments where the differences between his world and Victoria's felt too vast to bridge. But they were trying, and most days that was enough. Victoria finally got a pancake onto a plate without destroying it. Lily clapped. See? You did it. Only took me 4 tries. That's okay. Daddy burns stuff all the time. Hey, Adrian protested. I resent that. It's true. Remember the macaroni incident? Victoria laughed, that real laugh he'd fallen in love with. What macaroni incident? Daddy forgot about the pot, and all the water boiled away, and the smoke alarm went off, and the firemen came. The firemen did not come. Oh, they almost did. Adrian pointed at his daughter. You're supposed to be on my side. I'm on the truth side. Victoria plated the pancakes, slightly misshapen but edible. They sat down together at the table, the morning sun streaming through the windows, and it felt so ordinary and so precious at the same time. This was the life they'd built, messy and imperfect and theirs. Adrian's architecture program was kicking his ass. He'd underestimated how hard it would be to go back to school while raising a kid and maintaining a relationship. Most nights he was up until 2 in the morning working on designs, drinking coffee that had gone cold hours ago, questioning every choice that had led him here. But when he saw his sketches come to life, when a professor praised his vision, when he started to remember why he'd wanted to do this in the first place, it felt worth it. Victoria had made changes too. Real ones. She'd hired a second-in-command at Hale Industries, a sharp woman named Rachel Torres who could handle the day-to-day operations Victoria had been drowning in. It freed her up to focus on strategy, on the parts of the job she actually enjoyed. And it meant she came home at 6 instead of 10, was present for dinners and bedtime stories, and the small moments that made life feel full. The board had noticed. Martin still didn't trust her completely, but the numbers didn't lie. Hale Industries was thriving. The stock had recovered fully, then climbed higher. New contracts were coming in, and Victoria was doing it without sacrificing everything else. One evening, after Lily was asleep, Victoria found Adrian at the dining table surrounded by blueprints and models. She set down a glass of wine next to him. "You need a break. I need to finish this. It's due when? Next week. Then you have time." She pulled out a chair sitting next to him. "Show me what you're working on." Adrian hesitated. He'd never been good at sharing unfinished work, always worried it wasn't good enough yet. But Victoria was looking at him with genuine interest, so he turned the blueprints toward her. "It's a community center. The assignment is to design a space that serves multiple purposes. I'm trying to incorporate flexible areas that can be reconfigured depending on need." Days. Victoria studied the drawings, her finger tracing the lines. "This is beautiful. It's rough. It's ambitious. I like the way you're thinking about flow, about how people will move through the space. You sound like you know what you're talking about. I've funded enough building projects to pick up a few things." She looked up at him. "You're good at this. I'm relearning how to be good at this." "Same thing." Adrian took a sip of wine, feeling some of the tension ease out of his shoulders. "Do you ever regret it? Taking a chance on me?" Victoria's expression softened. "Never. Do you?" "Regret you? No. Regret quitting my job with no plan? Sometimes. You have a plan now." "Barely. It's more than you had before." She was right. And the truth was, even on the hardest days, even when he was exhausted and broke and wondering if he'd made a terrible mistake, he didn't want to go back. Didn't want to be the person he'd been, going through the motions, slowly eroding. "I'm scared I'm going to fail," he admitted. "Then you fail, and you try again. That easy? No. But it's the only way forward." Adrian leaned over and kissed her, tasting wine and certainty. "How did you get so smart? Expensive education and a lot of therapy." He laughed. Victoria stood, pulling him up with her. "Come on, enough work for tonight. You should come to bed with me and get actual sleep so you can think clearly tomorrow." She had a point. They left the blueprints scattered across the table and went to bed, curling around each other in the dark. Adrian listened to Victoria's breathing even out, felt the weight of her against him, and thought about how far they'd come from that rainy night in Murphy's bar. Back then, they'd both been drowning. Now, they were learning to swim. The call came on a Tuesday afternoon. Adrian was in class, his phone on silent, when it started buzzing repeatedly. When he finally checked during a break, he had 7 missed calls from Emma and 3 texts that just said, "Call me now." His stomach dropped. He stepped into the hallway and called her back. "What's wrong? Is Lily okay?" "Lily's fine. She's at school. But you need to come to the hospital. It's Mom." Adrian's world tilted. What happened? "Heart attack. She's stable now, but it was bad. They're running tests. I'm on my way." He grabbed his stuff, told his professor there was a family emergency, and was in his car within 5 minutes. His mother lived 2 hours away, had been healthy the last time he saw her 3 weeks ago. This didn't make sense. Victoria called while he was on the highway. He texted her on the way out, just the basics. "Where are you?" she asked. "About an hour out." "Do you want me to meet you there?" Adrian's first instinct was to say no, to handle this alone, but he caught himself. They'd promised. No more shutting each other out. "Yeah, can you pick up Lily from school? Emma's already at the hospital." "Of course, I'll bring her with me." "You sure? It might be a lot for her." "She'll want to be there, and so will I."
Adrian felt his throat tighten. Thank you. I love you. Drive safe.
The hospital was the kind of place that felt timeless in the worst way. Fluorescent lights, sanitized smells, the quiet urgency of people in scrubs moving with purpose. Adrian found Emma in the waiting room, her eyes red. How is she? They've got her stabilized. They're talking about a bypass surgery, but they want to wait until she's stronger. Can I see her? Yeah, room 412. Adrian made his way through sterile hallways until he found his mother's room. She looked small in the hospital bed, hooked up to machines that beeped and hummed. Her eyes were closed, but she wasn't sleeping. Mom? She opened her eyes, managed a weak smile. Hey, baby. Adrian pulled a chair close, took her hand. It felt fragile, papery. You scared the hell out of us. Sorry about that. Wasn't planning on it. What happened? I was gardening, started feeling off. Next thing I knew, I was in an ambulance. The doctors say you need surgery. So they tell me. She squeezed his hand. I'm going to be okay. You better be. They sat quietly for a moment. Then his mother's gaze sharpened. How are you doing? Really? Mom, we're here for you. Don't worry about me. I always worry about you. It's in the job description. Adrian smiled despite everything. I'm good. Better than I've been in a long time. The woman? Victoria? Yeah. You love her? I do. His mother nodded. Good. You deserve to be happy. So do you. Which is why you're going to get through this surgery and stick around for a while longer. Bossy. I learned from the best. Victoria arrived an hour later with Lily, who ran straight to Adrian and wrapped her arms around his waist. Is Grandma okay? She's going to be. Want to see her? Oh, Lily nodded. Adrian took her to the room while Victoria hung back, giving them space. His mother's face lit up when she saw Lily. There's my girl. Lily climbed carefully onto the bed, snuggling against her grandmother. You have to get better. We're supposed to make cookies next week. We will, I promise. Adrian watched them together, his chest aching. His mother had been his rock through everything. The divorce, the struggles with Lily, the career changes. The thought of losing her made him feel untethered. Victoria appeared in the doorway, tentative. Adrian waved her in. Mom, this is Victoria. His mother extended her hand. The famous Victoria. I've heard a lot about you. Victoria took her hand gently. I hope good things. Mostly. Adrian tends to leave out the interesting parts. That's because the interesting parts are none of your business, Adrian said. His mother laughed, which turned into a cough. The monitors beeped a warning and a nurse appeared, checking vitals. You should all go home, the nurse said kindly. Get some rest. She needs to sleep, and so do you. Adrian didn't want to leave, but he knew she was right. They said their goodbyes, promised to come back tomorrow, and headed to the parking lot. Emma caught up with them outside. She looked exhausted, wrung out. You okay? Adrian asked. No, but I will be. She glanced at Victoria. Thanks for bringing Lily. Of course. Emma studied Victoria for a moment, then nodded like she'd made a decision. Take care of my brother. I will. Good. The surgery happened 3 days later. Adrian sat in the waiting room with Emma and Victoria and Lily, watching the clock tick forward with agonizing slowness. 4 hours. That's how long they'd said it would take. 4 hours felt like a lifetime. Lily played games on Victoria's phone, distracted and safe. Emma paced. Victoria sat next to Adrian, her hand in his, solid and steady. She's going to be okay, Victoria said quietly. You don't know that. No, but I choose to believe it anyway. Adrian leaned his head against hers. I don't know what I'd do without her. You won't have to find out. Not today. At hour 5, a surgeon appeared, still in scrubs. Everyone stood. The surgery went well. We were able to do the bypass without complications. She's in recovery now. The relief was physical. Adrian felt his knees go weak. Emma started crying. Victoria squeezed his hand so hard it hurt. Can we see her? Emma asked. Give her another hour, then you can go in one at a time. They waited, and when Adrian finally got to see his mother,
groggy but alive. He cried for the first time since this whole thing started.
Recovery was slow. His mother spent a week in the hospital, then moved to a rehab facility. Adrian visited every day, sometimes bringing Lily, sometimes going alone. Victoria came when she could, fitting it around board meetings and conference calls. One afternoon, Adrian found his mother sitting up in bed, looking more like herself.
"You're looking better. I feel better, ready to get out of here." "Another week," they said. "Too long."
Adrian sat down. "I've been thinking. About? About how fragile everything is. How fast it can all change."
His mother gave him a knowing look. "You planning to propose to that woman?" Adrian blinked.
"What? No, I mean, not yet. Maybe eventually. I don't know. You should, but we've only been together a year. So? When you know, you know. It's complicated. Everything worth having is complicated." Adrian thought about that, about Victoria and Lily and the life they were building together, about waking up next to her every morning and still feeling like he'd won the lottery, about how she'd shown up at the hospital without being asked, had held his hand through the worst of it, had become family without either of them quite noticing when it happened.
"Yeah, he said quietly. "Maybe you're right." His mother smiled. "I usually am." 3 months later, Adrian graduated from his first year of the architecture program. It was a small ceremony, mostly for the faculty's benefit, but Victoria and Lily and Emma all came. His mother was there too, recovered enough to walk without assistance, beaming with pride. Afterward, they went to dinner at a nice restaurant. Lily ordered spaghetti and got sauce everywhere. Emma made a toast that made Adrian tear up. His mother told embarrassing stories from his childhood. And Victoria sat next to him, her hand on his knee under the table, laughing at all the right parts. This was family. Messy and loud and perfect in its imperfection. Later that night, after everyone had gone home and Lily was asleep, Adrian found Victoria on the balcony. She was staring out at the city, a glass of wine in her hand. "Hey." She turned, smiled. "Hey yourself. Graduate." "Don't make it sound so dramatic. I've got another year to go." "Still counts." He joined her at the railing. The city sprawled out below them, millions of lights representing millions of lives. Somewhere down there, two strangers were probably meeting in a bar. Somewhere, someone was falling in love, or falling apart, or both. "I've been thinking," Adrian said. "Dangerous." "I want to ask you something." Victoria set down her wine, turned to face him fully. "Okay." Adrian hadn't planned this. Didn't have a ring or a speech or any of the things you're supposed to have. But standing there, looking at this woman who'd walked into his life on the worst night and made everything better, he knew. "Marry me." Victoria's eyes went wide. "What?" "Marry me. Not right now. Not even soon. But eventually. When it feels right. I want to build a life with you. A real one. I want to grow old with you and fight about stupid things and make breakfast together and all of it. Adrian, you don't have to answer now. I know it's fast. I know we've got stuff to figure out still, but I needed you to know. That's what I want. You. Always." Victoria was crying. "You're serious?" "Completely." She launched herself at him, kissing him hard enough to knock them both off balance. When she pulled back, she was laughing and crying at the same time. "Yes, eventually, when it feels right. Yes." Adrian held her close, breathing in the smell of her shampoo, feeling her heartbeat against his chest. "Yeah?" "Yeah. Nah." They stood there, wrapped around each other while the city hummed below, and Adrian thought about that rainy night, about walking into Murphy's bar feeling like his life was over, about approaching the wrong woman and finding exactly what he needed. He'd been so lost back then, drowning in his own inadequacy, convinced he was failing at everything that mattered. And maybe he had been failing, but failure wasn't the end. It was just a starting point, because here he was, engaged to a woman he loved, raising a daughter who was happy and healthy, pursuing a dream he'd thought was dead, building something real out of the wreckage of who he used to be. It wasn't perfect. They still fought, still had moments of doubt. Victoria still worked too much sometimes, and Adrian still worried he wasn't enough. Lily still had rough days where she missed her mother and questioned why things had changed, but they were in it together.
and that made all the difference. A year and a half later, they got married. Small ceremony, just family and close friends. Emma cried through the whole thing. Lily was the flower girl, taking her job so seriously that she counted every petal she dropped. Adrian's mother sat in the front row, healthy and whole, and crying just as hard as Emma. Victoria wore a simple dress, no veil, her hair down the way Adrian loved it. He wore a suit he'd bought secondhand and tailored himself, saving money for the honeymoon they were planning. They said their vows in a garden, surrounded by flowers and sunlight and people who loved them. When the officiant said, "You may kiss," Adrian cupped Victoria's face and kissed her like it was the first time and the last time and every time in between. The reception was loud and chaotic and exactly what it should be. Lily danced with everyone, her dress twirling. Emma gave a toast that alternated between roasting Adrian and making everyone cry. Victoria's brother, who Adrian had met months ago and immediately liked, told stories about Victoria as a kid that explained so much about who she'd become. At one point, Adrian found himself alone with Victoria on the dance floor, swaying to a song he didn't recognize. "Happy?" she asked. "Stupidly happy. Me too. I never thought I'd have this." "Have what?" "Everything. You, Lily, a future that doesn't feel like I'm just surviving." Victoria pulled back to look at him. "You gave me that too, you know. Before you, I was just going through motions, building an empire and feeling empty. You reminded me what it feels like to actually live." "We're a mess." "Ooh, we're perfect. We're perfectly messy." She laughed, that real laugh, and pulled him closer. "I'll take it. They danced until Lily cut in, demanding a turn with both of them. The three of them spun around the floor, Lily giggling, and Adrian felt his heart might burst from how full it was. This was what he'd been missing, not just love, but belonging. The feeling that he was exactly where he was supposed to be. 2 years after the wedding, Victoria sat in her office staring at a proposal that would change everything. Rachel stood across from her, waiting. "You're sure about this?" Rachel asked. "No, but I'm doing it anyway." The proposal was to restructure Hale Industries, to step back from day-to-day operations and transition into a chairman role. It meant less control, but more freedom. It meant trusting Rachel to run the company Victoria had built from nothing. It was terrifying. It was also necessary, because 3 months ago, Victoria had found out she was pregnant. It hadn't been planned, had been a shock that sent both her and Adrian into a spiral of panic and excitement. Lily was over the moon at the idea of a sibling. Emma had already started buying baby clothes. And Victoria had realized she didn't want to do this the way she'd done everything else. Didn't want to be the CEO who barely saw her kid, who missed milestones because of meetings. She wanted to be present, actually present. So she was stepping back. Not all the way. She'd still have influence, still be involved in major decisions. But the crushing weight of running everything alone would shift to Rachel, who was more than capable. "The board's going to have questions," Rachel said. "Let them. I've earned this." "You have." Victoria stood, extending her hand. "Take care of my company." Rachel shook it firmly. "I will." That night, Victoria told Adrian. He was in the kitchen making dinner, something he'd gotten better at over the years. She wrapped her arms around him from behind, resting her head against his back. "I did it." "Did what?" "Stepped back, made Rachel CEO." Adrian turned in her arms. "How do you feel?" Scared, relieved, both. "You're going to be okay." "I know. It's just weird. Hale Industries has been my identity for so long, and now it's not. Now you get to figure out who you are without it." Victoria thought about that, about the possibilities, about having time to be a mother, to be a wife, to be a person instead of just a title. "Yeah," she said, "I guess I do." The baby came on a cold December morning. A girl, screaming and perfect and terrifying. They named her Grace, and Lily held her in the hospital with a mixture of awe and protectiveness that made Adrian cry. Victoria looked exhausted and radiant, holding their daughter like she was the most precious thing in the world. And watching her, Adrian felt the weight of it all. The journey from that rainy night to this moment, the fights and fears and triumphs, the choice they made every day to keep showing up for each other. "We did it," Victoria said, looking up at him. "We did. Now the hard part starts." Adrian laughed. "Now?" "Okay, the harder part. Lily climbed onto the hospital bed carefully, snuggling against Victoria. "Can I help with the baby?" "Always," Victoria said. Adrian looked at his family, his wife, his daughters, the life they'd built together from nothing but hope and stubbornness and love. It wasn't the life he'd imagined back when he was drowning, back when he thought failing at one thing meant failing at everything. But it was better, messier and harder, and infinitely more real, because that's what he'd learned. That life wasn't about getting it right on the first try. It was about showing up after you failed, about choosing to try again even when you were scared, about building something worth keeping even when the odds were against you. He'd walked into Murphy's bar on the worst night of his life, approached the wrong woman, made a mistake that changed everything, and he'd do it again in a heartbeat. Years from now, when Lily and Grace asked how he and Victoria met, he'd tell them the truth. That sometimes the worst mistakes lead to the best outcomes. That love isn't about finding someone perfect. It's about finding someone who makes you want to be better. That family isn't just blood. It's the people who choose to show up for you even when things get hard. He'd tell them that their mother saved his life without even trying. That he'd saved hers right back. That they'd built something beautiful out of broken pieces. And he'd tell them that every single day, he chooses her, chooses this life, chooses to keep showing up. Because in the end, that's all any of us can do. Show up, keep trying. Choose love even when it's scary, and hope that it's enough. Standing in that hospital room, holding his family close, Adrian knew it was more than enough. It was everything.